So multiplication in year 5 looks a bit like this. We might work up to 4 digits by 1 digit. So the children might have to work out questions such as, what would 1263 times 6 be? So the children will set out the larger number on the top, 1263, and underneath the units they would then put the 6. If the child wasn't familiar with the 6 times table, then we ask that they start to write that down, and it's this times table that would be the most useful to write down, because this is the number that they're multiplying by all of the other numbers on the top. So we just get them to start to write it down on the side, and if they don't know them they would have to add up 6 each time, but again this has the benefit of repetition, and eventually they'll start to learn their times tables and it'll just commit to memory. So we'll start off with 6 multiplied by 3. What's 6 times 3? And we know it's 18, so we write a small 1 there and the 8 digit underneath. We now do 6 times 6, which is 36, but we've got to add the 1 more on, which would make 37. I'm going to cross off that 1 because I've used it. We now do 6 times 2, which is 12, but add the 3, so 12, 13, 14, 15. Cross out the 3 because I've used it, and now 6 times 1 is 6, add 1 more makes 7. So 1263 multiplied by 6 would give us 7,578. And we then would move on to looking at multiplying possibly 3-digit by 2-digit numbers. So we might have a question such as, what is the product of 324 and 17? So we would put 324 on top, 17 underneath. And again, if the child didn't know their 7 times table, it would be worth writing it down, because this will help them in the rest of the calculation. So 7 multiplied by 4 is 28, so we'll put a very small 2 and the 8. 7 times 2 is 14, add 2 more would be 16, and 7 times 3 is 21, add 1 more would make 22. I'll cross out these numbers because I've used them. So the start of it is exactly the same as the calculation before. We do the unit times the others. The next step, the first thing they have to do is, because this isn't actually just 1, it's representing 10, is we have to put a 0 here. And that's the same if that was a 2, 3, 4, 5, any of the 2-digit numbers. The first thing we do before we actually start multiplying this is put a 0 down here. Now that we've done that, we can then say, well, what would 1 times 4 be? And it would be 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 multiplied by 3 is 3. The last thing before I actually get my answer is to now total up these numbers here, because that's the sum of that calculation, that's the sum of the other. We need to add it up to get our final answer. So 0 add 8 is 8, 6 add 4 is 10, 2 add 2 is 4, plus 1 would make 5, and 5. So now we know that 324 multiplied by 17 would leave us with 5,508.